up to?
Yeah, I mean, obviously filling a roster, right? And we filled our roster all the way into August. You know, we got our last signee, which is Andrea from Serbia, and he probably was about a week late to school. Unfortunately for him, once he got over here, he had some issues. He's having some issues with his back, so he hasn't practiced a whole bunch. So I don't have a whole lot to report there, but this day is probably good in the fact that today's the first day of practice, right? The NCAA, in their infinite wisdom, says you start November 4th, count back 42 calendar days, and you get 30 practices. So basketball coaches that aren't the sharpest cats, it makes it difficult. But nonetheless, we started today and had a good practice. We're usually going in the mornings, and then they kind of get the afternoons off before they come back in the evenings to get shots up and those sorts of things. So good spirited practice, as it should be in the very first one, and I thought that they did a good job. They played hard, and you know, they're trying to do what we're asking them to do. So it's a good start.
Has that always been your routine, to be a morning practice?
I've done it a couple ways, depending upon the university and depending upon, you know, guys' class schedules. I personally like the mornings, and when I've done it in the mornings, I've asked them if they preferred the mornings or they wanted to go to the afternoons, which is what we will do here. And they've said they like the mornings once they get into the routine. Now, would there be bitching and moaning if it was 7 a.m.? Absolutely. And I'm not trying to go at 7 a.m. either, but I like being able to get up in the morning and, you know, have practice. And then, you know, that gives you the whole afternoon to meet with your staff, to watch film, to prepare for the next day and those sorts of things. But more importantly, once it gets into the season, it allows you to possibly get on the road and go recruiting, you know, especially within a couple hours radius.
How have you seen a guy like Bryce, who's been here for 4 years, get acclimated to a new structure, new style, new scheme, stuff like that?
He's been fantastic. You know, he tries to do what we're asking him to do. Obviously, our system's a little different than the previous system, so it takes some, you know, good and bad. It takes some good and bad days for him. But no, he's been great. He's tried to be a leader. He's in the gym working, as are all the guys, and you know, I expect him to have a productive year.
Does it help that you guys don't officially get started until today? Gives him 3 or 4 months to get acclimated?
Well, to be very frank with you, he didn't get acclimated in the summer because he was still on the shelf because of being hurt. You know, he had shoulder surgery, so he didn't get released. Shoot, Brian, help me with this. Maybe end of August, early September. I think he finally got released for full contact. So in the summer, he would do some of the, you know, the dry stuff and the shooting and those sorts of things. But he really never got out there until end of August, early September. But with that being said, I think within the first 3-4 days of practice, when the ball was rolling and it was time to go dive on it, he didn't hesitate at all. He wasn't worried about his shoulder. You know, he was making winning plays or trying to make winning plays.
Typically for you, at what point do you have a good feel that the sum of your parts, what it will be, and it'll be enough for what you need?
It's going to be a while. Man, we're still a little bit of, we're definitely evolving. I would say this, that if you were to come to practice and watch today versus watching a month and a half ago, we're making progress. Like, I like our team. They try to play the right way. They play hard. They try to make winning plays, but roles have not been defined. You know, at the end of the day, when you bring in this many people, my philosophy on it is that you have to start with the defensive end of the basketball, because the defense has to be there every single day. You also have to start with playing hard, being unselfish, and having a team approach above all else. We've established that. Like, I'm fine with that part of it, and I know that they're gonna adhere to that, or, you know, obviously they won't play. So I think we've got that part. So now, can you fit within the system? Can you not turn the basketball over? Can you rebound at a high rate? And can you make baskets? Now, that's where things are yet to be determined. But I don't know that there's probably many coaches that took over jobs and brought in 10 transfers or 10 new players and it isn't in the same boat as I am today.
this is your third time being a new coach at a program. How has the transition and kind of the taking over process compared to maybe your first two, whether it's challenges or differences, any of that stuff?
Man, I hate to minimize it and say, like, you know, it's the same every year, but I think with the transfer portal and all the new guys, you're just going to start over. It's sad to say it, because you want to build for the future, right? And you want to have 3 freshmen that are going to be sophomores, and then sign 4 more freshmen on top of them. But I just don't know that that's going to be the way it is. So again, for me and for most coaches, I think that you're trying to establish your standards, right? Our standards that we're going to play hard, we're going to be tough, physical, we're going to share the ball, we're going to do things that good teams do. And we've done that. And I think for me, that's more important than, you know, can we run set plays? You know, we don't have a set play. And I went and watched Purdue practice last week or the week before when I went to see my daughter. Painter's running 30 set plays, and I'm like, holy smokes, man, I feel bad because we don't have set plays in. But with 10 new players, you know, you can't do that. And we're going to play motion offense anyways. So, you know, that's going to be predominantly what we do. So I don't know that we need all that. But I guess my point being is that establish what's most important to winning right now for us. And those are the things that I discussed.
Do you have milestones for leading up to the season that you want to see the team hit?
The same as when you guys interviewed me after I got hired. We want to win the league. We want to win the league tournament. We want to go to the NCAA tournament and compete for a title.
But do you have like preseason benchmarks, like that sort of you're looking for to show y'all are sort of on track, getting ready for the season?
I think it's hard to say, hey, week 1 we need to be here, week 2 we need to be here, week 3 we need to be here. Each team's different, you know. Certain teams are going to grasp defensive concepts quicker. Therefore, we're going to be able to move along quicker. Certain teams are going to learn to or know how to play motion offense better and move without the ball and play with their teammates. And therefore, you can get into ball screens, you can get into a lot of the different handoffs and those sorts of things. This team's not there yet on day 1, but I think it's a hard. You can't have a hard plan, but you definitely have a model of what you want to do and your progression of how you're going to go about doing it.
What did you all see in Andrea, and what was the process of bringing him over from Serbia?
Well, obviously, he had signed at Wisconsin, right? And so when he didn't end up going there, we reached out to him and to his family and to his agent and those sorts of things. And typically it's Zoom calls, it's FaceTime calls, or WhatsApp calls, you know. And we just started recruitment. And then, you know, at some point you've got to figure out, is it going to be a fit? The good thing about international student athletes these days is that there's a ton of film. You know, obviously he played for a organization there in Serbia. He played U18 or U17, whatever it was. So all that's on film these days. And then there's recruiting services that evaluate all of those games over there, evaluate all of the smaller tournaments, the big tournaments, and they're constantly compiling information. The same information that the NBA uses, right? We use it as well.
What did you see on film from him? What kind of player is he?
Oh, yeah. He can rebound the basketball. He's a good passer. He is physically strong. He can run, and he can shoot the ball a little bit. You know, I haven't really had an opportunity to see him in live action, right, because of his injury, but I think all of those things are going to allow him to be a productive player in time.
Do you guys have any date as far as when he might be able to get back out on the floor?
How would you sort of equate his experience, like the games he was able to play?
Yeah, I mean, that's a professional league that he was playing in, right? I mean, the Euro Cup league is, you know, almost the equivalent to the NBA, right? And so that's he's playing against grown men, and he's battling every single day. So I think that's going to equate, you know, to the Big 12. That league that he was in, especially, is very physical. Obviously, our league's pretty physical, so I think there's an easy transition. But again, guys, he's 19 years old, right? There's gonna be some transition for him. It's gonna take a little bit of time.
Is
feel like-
international recruiting something you've used a lot of in your past?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, over the years, I've had them anywhere from Poland to Africa to Belarus to Canada, right? Yeah, so we'll use whatever we need to get the best people and the best players here.
You ever use Fran Fraschilla as a sounding board, since he seems to spend a lot of his time studying those Euro players?
Yeah. I mean, we use everything that we can. I'm not going to tell you that I called Fran and asked about Andrea, but yeah, no. I mean, we use every possible source that we can.
I feel like I've got a pretty good background on your defense philosophy and who your mentors and who your inspirations have been, but with your motion offense, who's been the biggest influences with your philosophy on offense?
Again, kind of all of them. I mean, we
Okay.
ran motion offense at Incarnate Word. We ran motion offense at Stephen F. Austin. We ran it at Purdue. We ran it at Creighton. You know, heck, we ran it at Garden City. You know, it's evolved obviously, and it evolves with your talent, and your personnel. But you know, we've done it every single year at every place I've been. We even ran motion at SMU with Matt Doherty, but it was a little bit different.
This goes back to something you were talking about earlier, but I think you've got 6 guards who have played quite a bit of college basketball. You're kind of excited to see what that competition looks like through this early part of this practices.
Yeah, man, practice is competitive now. Those guys are not afraid to get after one another, and they compete. So it's been fun to watch. You know, today was a good day in terms of competing and getting after one another. So I think we're gonna have multiple bodies that we can play. You know, we never want to have anybody get injured, but if so, I think we have depth, you know, at the guard and the wing position.
Is it difficult at all, or will it be difficult with those 6 guys? There's one basketball to kind of have them understand, to buy in, hey, this is a team thing?
Yeah, back to the original point of what we spent our entire summer on, right? And that's the standards. But I think when you recruit good people and you explain how we're going to play and you explain the standards, which we've done, I think that you've got guys that will accept that, and they all have the same goal to go to the NCAA tournament. So instead of averaging 11 points, if you average 9 and we go to the NCAA tournament, they all have the same mindset that that's worth it.
Last time when we talked to you in the summer, you guys had, I think, 3 scholarships left, and you talked about how you wanted to add more size. And now that the roster is complete collectively, how do you feel about the size you guys have?
You know, I think our size is going to be fine. You know, I haven't really dove into the rosters in the Big 12, so I haven't made the final determination, like, will we need to double the post and those sorts of things. We don't have what I call plus size. You know, we don't have 7'1", 7'2", 7'3", and lots of length. But I know that we have enough physicality and enough size to bang in the league. It's just going to be a matter of, can you guard the post one-on-one, or do you need to double it? But yeah, I'm fine with our size.
Seems like you guys got a couple 6'6", 6'7" guys who, do you think that they could play a little bit bigger at times if they need to as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially again, if you double the post, those sorts of things, you can always kind of offset that.
What did you see in Mikey Kelvin?
I see a guy that can shoot the basketball first and foremost. He's got good size. You know, he's played at a pretty good level over there in Canada. He's got good athleticism. He's adjusting to the pace of the play, right? The pace of play here is so much faster, and he's adjusting to the physicality, and that's his biggest hurdles at this point. But I mean, I think Mikey can put the ball in the basket and can certainly shoot. So you know, I'd like to expect him to have a good role.
Do you like where y'all are, I guess, off the court? You know, from just, you know, chemistry and bonding both with the coaches and staff and the players, you know, 4 or 5 months in?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I mean, we went through summer school and we got all A's and B's and 1 C. I think that's a really good start. But you know, kind of as I said from day one, we're fairly selective in who we recruit and bring in, and we've got good guys when they meet people across campus, when they interact with people at football games and in the suites and all those sorts of things. I've not heard any bad reviews, you know. So yeah, no problems there. And then staffing, absolutely. I mean, I hired them. If they were jerks, I should have never hired them. So, yeah, I would never want to put myself there, our staff or our program in that position.
What was it like being on the field doing the Orange Power chant on Saturday?
You know what? That was different, guys. It was different. I until you get out there and you kind of look up and you see 70,000 people, you're like, oh, it's just another day. And then you look up and you're like, oh, that's a lot of people. You know, and it's so loud you can't tell if they can hear you or not. So I have no idea if people even heard what I said other than 3, 2, 1 and point. You know.
We heard you up here.
Did you? Okay, cool.
We talked about Bryce, but what about Jamiron and Connor have also stood out kind of?
Yeah, you know, both have worked hard. Connor's put on some weight, so physically he's a little bit bigger. He's able to embrace the physicality a little bit more, and has worked pretty hard. And then Keller, he's had a good summer as well. You know, Jamiron is really good at handling his business. Where he needs to now make another step forward is making sure that his teammates are there with him. So instead of you coming to the gym at 9 or 10 o'clock at night, bring a couple guys with you that maybe need extra work, you know, because not everybody is as self-motivated as him. But no, I've been, you know, pleased with both those guys.
What makes you see that kind of leadership potential from Jamiron?
Oh, man, I don't know that there's something that you can say that you can quantify it. Like when you see their presence and you see the way that they play and the way that they interact, they either kind of have it or they don't. He definitely has it. He's always had it. He's just very quiet. Needs to be more vocal.
Because of how new this team is, do you need those 3 guys that are holdovers to be leaders, or is it okay for some of the other older guys who just got here to
No,
kind of
it's, yeah, everybody needs to be a leader. I mean, anybody that thinks they're a point guard needs to be a leader, number one. And if you are one of the better players, you need to be a leader. But it doesn't matter where the leadership comes from. I just hope it doesn't have to come from me, right? It needs to come from within the team and the roster.
How do you kind of cultivate that?
I mean, number one, I mean, you set the expectations and the standards, and then when there's opportunities for them to lead, and they do it, you have to praise it. And then when there's opportunities for them to lead and they don't do it, you obviously have to point it out, and sometimes it makes them uncomfortable, right? In terms of making them lead when maybe they don't want to, but that's just part of it. And then, you know, you're just constantly pushing buttons, right? And if they can handle it, great. Now we can build upon it. But if there may be one that you see, that's not them, so now you got to bring them in and talk to them and try to facilitate that, and then keep working at it. And at some point, maybe it's just not in their DNA.
No
So
conflict.
a guy like Brandon, who's been with you Western and also was at Purdue, he understands it. Does that help you advance that a little bit with a guy?
Yeah, and I think Brandon tries, right? I think all those guys try, but Brandon has certainly tried to be a leader. He's watched, or I should say he's been a part of practice, you know, for a year with me, and then even at Purdue, some of the drills are carryovers, right? So he knows what's going on, so he's able to help those guys, and he's embraced that, and he's done a pretty good job with it. Plus, he's older. He's seen a lot, right? He's seen an awful lot, so he needs to be, doing that.
Do you mind talking about how you dictate responsibilities or delegate the responsibilities within your staff?
Yep, a little bit like football in that we have an offensive side of the ball and a defensive side of the ball. Like Jeremy Cox and Robert Guster really focus on the defense, and then so the game preps for each game, those 2 guys will handle that. And then Mike Econom and James Miller are on the offensive side of the ball. As much as I'm a defensive guy, most coaches, when you get into the season, they get nervous that you're not going to be able to score, and I'm certainly one of those people. So during the season, and I tend to spend a lot of time thinking offense, even though we practice probably more defense. And then Keaton Page, he'll do like all of the out of bounds, the special situations, those sorts of things. Those are the 5 guys that are allowed to coach and be on the floor.
When you have so much trying to come together, how valuable is it to have a roster that largely has a lot of experience?
Say that one more time.
When you have just trying to bring so much together, first year, all these new guys, new staff, how valuable is it to have a roster that has so much experience?
Yeah, I mean, the best predictor of the future is the past, right? And so if you've been through the Big 12 and you've played a lot of college basketball, I mean, the experience is just gonna help you navigate road trips, gonna help you navigate highs and lows, those sorts of things. So, it's just the way it is.
When you're evaluating guys to decide if you want to bring them in, is there a way you differentiate? I don't know, like, are there good experiences and bad experiences? Like, is there a way to tell that apart, other than just raw game time and stuff like that?
In terms of when I'm watching them and evaluating
Yeah.
them? Yeah, of course. I mean, like anything, I think that you have to recruit the right people, but it helps you to recruit from the right program, right? And I know that if a young man comes from this program that has discipline and does things the right way, they're not gonna be shocked when they come here. And that's not to say that people that don't necessarily do it exactly the way we do are wrong, because every coach is different and you gotta do what works for you. But yeah, the transition from one program to another is certainly a lot easier if it's a like-minded program.
Are you pleased with how the non-conference schedule came together?
Say it again?
Are you pleased with how the non-conference schedule came together?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're gonna test the team enough that we'll find out about ourselves, right? I mean, like, I'm really excited about Bedlam, I'm really excited about the Charleston Classic, and you gotta go into New Jersey and play Seton Hall, who's gonna be a physical, well-coached team. And then, I think that our home games are certainly not easy, but yeah, no, I'm excited about it. We'll know a lot more about our team, based upon what happens in the non-conference schedule.
It seems like James Miller's been really good for you guys in recruiting early, with him being that associate title. Was that kind of expected upon him, or what's kind of your views on assistants in recruiting, things like that?
Well, I mean, I think all those guys are doing a good job. It's kind of a fickle deal with recruiting. Like, if the three of you guys are all recruiting big guys, and James's guy just happens to come first, you get all the accolades, right? And I've told this story before with Zach Edey. That year at Purdue, it was Hunter Dickinson, Colin Castleton, Ryan Kalkbrenner, Zach Edey. The two top ones went to Michigan, the other one went to Creighton, and Zach came to us. And that's not to say that Zach was fourth on the depth chart, but in national rankings he was, and he's two-time National Player of the Year. So, like, some of that's crap. So all those guys work hard at recruiting and have done a good job. I mean, we put together a roster fairly quickly in the spring and the summer, and those guys all had a part in it. So I wouldn't associate being the associate head coach versus you have to sign the largest amount of players, because I've been on staffs where maybe I signed 3 guys in the same year, and the next year I didn't sign any. We just happened to get other players. You got to get the best players for the team, and sometimes there's a lot of factors into that.
I know conference play is a ways off, but what are you expecting just from the grind of this league?
Ooh, man. I don't know that I have that answer. I know that it's going to be very, very tough. I mean, there's absolutely no questions that it's the best conference in the country this year. I mean, there's no questions. You look at all those preseason polls, you know that we have some of the best players and obviously some of the best coaches in the league. So, there's going to be peaks and valleys. I do know that. I mean, shoot, you may win a game on your home floor, and then you may have to go 2 on the road, and then you may have number 2 coming into your place right after that. I mean, that's a hard swing, you know what I mean? So I think that we've got to prepare ourselves in the non-conference for that, first and foremost, but then we've got to make sure that we stay even-keeled. You can't, you could possibly lose 2 or 3 games, and that has nothing to do with you going to the NCAA tournament. You know what I mean? Like, you're losing on the road, or you're losing to, a top 5 team at home in a close game. If you'll still stay steady and stay the course, you'll still get into the NCAA tournament. But just like any other league, you got to win your games at home, hopefully, right? And then try and split those on the road. It'll be a fun conference slate for sure.
Will you have any open practices, whether it's media, public?
Everybody except you can come to practice. No, I don't know, I haven't gotten that far, we'll see,
Right.
we'll see, I try to be, facilitating, but I also need to make sure that we're winning basketball games. So Brian and I have talked about several different things. Brian is in your corner, he wants you to be in practice, he wants me to be mic'd up. It's not really who I am, but we'll figure something out.
He's been like you, he doesn't,
We'll figure out
everybody but
something.
you.
He's trying, guys, I promise.
With the first official practice, leading up to that or during it, or I don't know, did it ever just hit you? I don't know whether it was before, during, did it ever just hit you that you're here? Or was it just kind of another practice for you?
No, it hit me the other day when they emailed the Big 12 schedule and said, hey, here's a tentative Big 12 schedule. That's when it hits you. You're like, holy smokes. But yeah, no, I mean, the day I took the job, that's when you're overwhelmed with emotion and you're saying to yourself, wow, I'm here. This is really, really cool. What a great environment. What a great job. What a great, all those sorts of things. That's when it really, really hit me. Now, the levity of it, when that Big 12 schedule came across that email, was like, oh, okay, and you start looking at, hey, I have a top 5 team at home, and then I go on the road for 2, and then I come back and there's a top 10 team coming in, you're going, jeez, right? But everybody in the league's saying that. So that's why we do this, right? Playing the best league in the country. That's what makes this league special.